Philosopher, composer, educator, and writer, Jean-Jacques Rousseau was a man of many traits and talents. A key figure of the Enlightenment and of the Romantic movement, his thoughts and writings contributed greatly to the founding philosophies of the new republics of the time. Here's a closer look at the impact and life of Jean-Jacques Rousseau. Jean-Jacques Rousseau was born on June 28, 1712, in the city of Geneva. Growing up in a middle-class family who were citizens of Geneva, Jean enjoyed certain rights and privileges that others in the city did not. This allowed him to be able to receive some education through both his father and through reading classics on Roman republics. Beyond this, though, Rousseau's childhood was difficult at best. His mother died during childbirth, and a few years after his father was exiled from Geneva, he himself left the city at the age of 16. Moving from place to place, Rousseau worked as a servant, musician, writer, and later a tutor, at which time he began to start his more intellectual work. Music was the main focus of his early life, and while in Paris he wrote operas, including Les Muses Galantes and Les Devines du Village, and even developed a system for musical notation based on numbers. From here, Rousseau began to focus more on writing and grew to fame after winning a contest by the Academy of Dijon, in which he wrote an essay that defended the arts and sciences and discussed how humans are good by nature but corrupted by civilization. These new ideas, as well as ones to come, placed him amongst a select few of the Enlightenment thinkers, although, as you will see, his ideas were not always the same as theirs. To better understand the Enlightenment, here is a quick clip describing Rousseau and his fellow philosophers and the impact of their ideas.
In 1788, on the eve of the Revolution, the nobles were urging the king not to allow any change that would weaken their position. At the same time, more and more people, including many nobles, were becoming aware of the need for change. Influenced in part by an intellectual movement among 18th century writers whose ideas became known as the Enlightenment. Jean-Jacques Rousseau wanted to abolish privilege and social classes, arguing that all men are born equal, with equal rights. The satirist and critic Voltaire did not go so far. He thought that all men have natural rights that should not be abused by the privileged few, but believed in an enlightened monarchy. Montesquieu, a lawyer and a philosopher, thought that government should be a contract between king and people, with obligations on both sides.
Back to Rousseau. As his fame grew, the more he was supported by multiple patrons and was able to work almost solely on writing, particularly philosophical works. His greatest work in the genre of political philosophy was The Social Contract. Earlier discourses had discussed his belief that a man in his primitive state was happy, but civil society and ownership of property corrupted man. In The Social Contract, though, Rousseau attempts to create a unity between individual liberty and the governmental authority. He defines the social contract as a society agreeing to be governed by the general will. By agreeing to this, Rousseau postulates that therefore people would be free, because the general will is the best thing for the community. He thought that what was best for the group was best for the individual person. Emily was another one of Rousseau's great works. A novel on education, this treatise expressed his belief that there should be a balance between heart and mind in learning, and that education should promote creativity and natural insight. These beliefs fell in line with the later movement called Romanticism, making Rousseau one of the precursors of the movement. Rousseau was not perfect, though. Although he believed in such high-minded ideas for education, he himself put all 5 children in foundling homes. He also saw women as possessions whose only purpose was to care for the family. His own slight hypocrisies aside, his work also greatly contradicted some of the works of Locke on education and Voltaire on political theory. He provided an outside voice when everyone else was going in the same direction. Due to the controversial nature of his works, Rousseau was forced into exile multiple times and moved frequently, becoming more and more paranoid of persecution. Once again, he made his living from copying music and spent the end portion of his life writing autobiographical texts such as The Confession. Rousseau died in 1778 at the age of 66. Rousseau had a profound impact on philosophers, political theorists, and the general population. Not only did his ideas impact future philosophers such as Immanuel Kant, they also contributed to things such as the French Revolution. For better or for worse, Jean-Jacques Rousseau's philosophy has remained with us for centuries, and will remain with us for centuries to come.